So, as I say, not annoyingly at all, Matthew is here with the business today and a busy day of comings and goings in Cyprus on Tuesday. Rather annoying for them, I should think.
Yes, that's right. Finance Minister Michalis Sarris stepped down from the Finance Minister job after just 5 weeks doing it. But it was not before he finalised the terms of a bailout deal. The President of Cyprus also announced an investigation into what exactly went wrong there. Well, Katerina Vitozzi has all the details.
A bailout deal agreed, but still to be ratified, that'll help stop Cyprus from going bankrupt. The island's government hammered out a pre-loan agreement with international lenders. The key terms: Cyprus will get a €10 billion loan at an interest rate of 2.5%. There's 22 years to pay it back, with a decade before the first repayment.
The grace period is indeed 10 years. And it gives an opportunity for space to breathe, so that we don't see the violent shock that we've witnessed in the past few days in implementing the measures in the banking sector.
There'll be a halfway marker of Cyprus's progress, a target of a primary budget surplus of 4% in 5 years. Among the measures to raise public funds, Cyprus will increase its corporate tax rate, until now the lowest in the EU. With the immediate threat of bankruptcy diverted, the Cypriot government's launched an independent inquiry to find out who's to blame for this financial meltdown.
These tragic events are without a doubt the result of many internal and external factors, a continuation of acts and admissions from people responsible for the economy and the banking sector.
The first scalp, Cypriot Finance Minister Michalis Sarris, who was previously chairman of the collapsed Laiki Bank. He resigned Tuesday in order, he said, to help the probe proceed. Some Cypriots are calling for more political purging. Anti-bailout protesters say the EU loan terms are just too harsh. Savers are still waiting to find out exactly how much of their bank deposits they might lose.
Yeah, and the stock market has opened once again in Cyprus, hasn't it?
Yes, it was open on Tuesday after being closed for 2 weeks. It didn't fall perhaps as much as some people expected. This is how it's looked over the course of the year. It's been down throughout the year, really. Down another 2.5% on Tuesday. Now, it probably would have been steeper, but shares in the Bank of Cyprus and the Laiki Bank were not trading on Tuesday.
What about the other markets?
Well, this Wednesday, we take a look at what's happening in Asia. It's a bit of a mixed picture. Now, what's happening there is that investors are waiting to see the outcome of a Bank of Japan policy meeting. Now, it's the first one under the new leadership of Haruhiko Kuroda, and he's committed to aggressive measures to stimulate the economy. But the Nikkei is still managing a 2.5% gain there.
Now, investors might not have to wade through long company reports. This is for the latest results in the future.
That's right. Rather than those big, thick reports and press releases, perhaps 140 characters could be enough. That follows a decision by the Securities and Exchange Commission, the regulator, really, of all things financial in the US. And it says that social media websites like Twitter and Facebook can be used in future for getting information out to shareholders and investors.
OK, and it's complicated, this one, but the announcement actually relates, doesn't it, back to an investigation concerning Netflix.
Yes, now Netflix, I don't know if you know Netflix, a video streaming company based in the US, operates in lots of other countries, though, around the world. Now, back in July, they hit a milestone of having 1 billion views per month, and the head of the company decided to announce that on Facebook. But that got him into trouble because that was seen as important information for the market, and he hadn't done it through the proper channels. He'd used Facebook instead. An investigation was launched to see if he'd done anything wrong. Well, good news for them. That investigation has now been dropped because the SEC said the rules just weren't clear enough at the time.
Now, to something we've been covering in the news bulletin, the French President François Hollande. He's in Morocco later today. You've been looking at a big rail project there, haven't you?
Yes, that's right, because Morocco is building a high-speed rail link. It's between Tangier and Casablanca, and of course France is the experts really in building high-speed rail, and there's plenty of French expertise out there in Morocco building this as well. Well, France 24's correspondents there sent us this report.
North of the city of Kenitra, the tranquility of the river Sebo is broken by the pounding of a hydraulic drill. A few months from now, the first bridge on Morocco's high-speed train line linking Tangier to Casablanca will be completed here, a structure designed to last 100 years. It's a first in Morocco, both in terms of the material and the techniques being used.
It's in a difficult location. There's been a lot of rain recently, and therefore several dams have been opened upstream, which has slowed down the work. But we'll try to catch up during the dry season.
100 companies from all over the world are working on the first section of the high-speed line, due to open by the end of 2015. The French company Ceteba is making more than 1,000 concrete sleepers per day to be laid under the track. It's built a factory here, but is hiring local workers. By providing training and engineering support, France is exporting its specialist knowledge of high-speed railways.
It's our first high-speed rail project. This is a case study for us, so we are interested in a transfer of expertise on this first project.
But its critics say this €1.8 billion project doesn't make economic sense.
With an amount like that, imagine the number of schools we could have built, or even in terms of trains, the regions we could have opened up.
Despite the opposition to the project, Morocco is planning to build another 1,300 kilometres of high-speed railways by 2035.
Well, let's get some of the day's company news now. And the US phone operator Verizon says that it's not looking to buy Britain's Vodafone. That followed reports that it planned to team up with the fellow American operator AT&T to make a bid. Well, the news anyway sent Vodafone shares up by 3% in London on Tuesday.
Richard Branson's Virgin Atlantic wants to team up with Air France KLM. That's according to a report in the Financial Times. It says the British airline wants to offer more flights to Asia, the Middle East and Africa. It currently flies to just 10 destinations in those regions.
And the aerospace group EADS is shifting its headquarters. The company will now be based out of the southern French town of Toulouse. That will replace the current split between HQs in Paris and Munich. Well, the move can go ahead following approval by workers' councils in France and Germany.
I've just decided while you were reading that you got your priorities wrong. When we were talking about British beer last week, I said to Matthew he needs to bring a prop. He's bought a prop, he's not talking about beer. This is about notebook floatings on the stock market this Wednesday.
I did my best. This is what we're talking about. Now, this is a flotation of these things. These are called Moleskine notebooks, and they are characterised by this distinctive strap that they have on them, elastic strap, and they're not made of mole skin, but they will be floated on the Milan Stock Exchange later this Wednesday. Shares have been priced at €2.30. Now, the company wants to raise money to finance more international expansion, particularly into China and Latin America, and they've really positioned themselves as a luxury brand. These things, I can't tell you the exact price, but they are pretty expensive. Now, I thought I'd tell you a little bit about the history of this company as well, because they were actually first created about 200 years ago in the French town of Tours, but the company that made them went bankrupt in the mid-1980s. And one writer, the British writer Bruce Chatwin, was so sad about that he wrote about his love of the books in one of his novels, and it was him actually that gave them the name Moleskine. No idea why he chose that as the name, but it was then bought by an Italian company called Modo and Modo, and they used that name for it, and well, there it goes. It's been quite a success since then.
All right, we like the props. Just make sure they're for the right stories.
Do better next time.
Matthew Warren with the Business on France 24. Very latest news coming out of Korea, and all the rest of the day's headlines, of course. Cyril Vanier here after the weather.